Hi beautiful mamas from around the world, welcome or welcome back to Mothering in the Dark, where our focus, our intention and our inspiration is on igniting you. If you're new and you'd like to know more about what that means, you're welcome to have a look at the previous episode called Your Space, where we take a deep dive into what igniting you really means. In our contemplation station today, our topic is over-responsibility. And in the land of duality down here, I've drawn the opposite tension between over-responsible and independence. And as always, our conversation, the space we enter, is just before duality. And as usual, I invite you into now. I invite you into our conversation. And you may want to locate yourself in the sense of what messaging about interdependence. So that's give and take, how much you're allowed to ask of another in a relationship, or how much are they allowed to ask of you. How are you allowed to respond? And so you bring yourself into the messaging that you received when you were younger, the messaging that you feel that your current social setting or program holds for you now. And you just touch on the sense of it. There's no analysis or story to bring in here. In a way, bringing in our story or trying to hunt down the cause can be a form of trauma dumping on ourselves. So we do this very lightly and very lovingly when we connect with, I'm a bit too much of a giver, or, just how it feels for you. So in the space of contemplation, it's completely sufficient for you to just hold a question or just hold an idea around a message without being in the pursuit of an answer. Because the question and answering dynamic of seeking information belongs down here in duality. And in duality, we always have opposing concepts or ideas. And this, by its very nature, is conflict or contrast. And there's a tension. So when we come in at a situation with a question that we need an answer to, we suspend ourselves in the waiting for the answer. But here in the contemplation station, by just connecting softly into our awareness, we are opening up the space. We're not keeping ourselves suspended. We are inviting the idea to this is where we're so magical in a way, or just mysterious in a way, or magnificent, where all the information systems within us and come together and offer us feedback. And so the sense of waiting for an answer is given peace. We're able to put it down and allow or even trust that our system is generating the right answer for the right time, or the insights that we need, or not giving us the insight that we don't need. So the one aspect of over responsibility in our thought area is when we are suspended in that space of feeling desperate for an answer, or feeling that we cannot move until we have that answer. We cannot progress until we have that answer. And this just puts all the responsibility or the burden on one aspect of our information processing system. And so, as an act of kindness, the calibration, the speed at which our body moves, or the space that it allows on all the levels in our body, if we come in from a place of presence and awareness, is peace, which is an incredibly high and light and efficient state for our body to be in. When we are overburdening one element of our system and expecting it to be the be-all and the end-all, we can actually physically feel that heaviness. And when we are devoting so much attention to just one aspect, it translates into a heavy feeling, into inertia, into a fatigue. And, this can then go deeper and deeper into listlessness and demotivation, which is a rabbit hole that is completely unnecessary and kind of unfair, because there's a lot more cooperation going on inside of us. So if we put in our excess energy somewhere and all our attention somewhere, we take in freed up energy from a freed up space, and put in excess energy, which basically holds us in tension and depletes us. So if you're thinking about how does your ability to respond now feel in your life? And once again, we don't need to unpick every problem and get to the bottom of, the cause and what to do about it and how to fix it. We don't need to process every single aspect, because that also adds to more attention on one element or on one topic, draining the rest of us and leaving us feeling depleted. So what we do instead of analyzing is we just bring it into our awareness. Don't make our thought or our thinking mind over-responsible. There's a beautiful peace in being able to say, I don't know, and that's my honest answer. Because there's a truth there, and giving yourself the permission to connect with that, to verbalize that, pushes you into, or frees you up to be in the space, within yourself, that allows a lot more information and support and energy to be more evenly directed within you, or create a sense of balance within. Okay, so let's talk about over-responsibility in emotion. Now, this is a difficult one because it is such a big topic. It is such a big conversation. And so it might certainly requires a lot of discipline from me to stay in the space of just being aware of over-responsibility within emotion. Because this emotion is such a big part, if we think particularly about the mother-child relationship. We run our children's feelings and experiences through us very intensely when they're little, It's actually a form of our communication. And then as they're getting older, we're also teaching them their emotional regulation, and that brings a lot of question and answers, or questions into our self around the emotions that we feel and which emotions are allowed, and pardon me, all of those things. So keeping it light and just being aware that emotional over responsibility is something that you will feel. We spoke about the heaviness, but emotional over responsibility can also feel like a bit of a discomfort, and sometimes we are so used to being in that space that it actually feels normal, even though it leaves us feeling a sense of heaviness or fatigue or aloneness, you know. I was actually just remembering on emotional over responsibility when I was doing my training as an undergrad and working with children with trauma, and I was still working under a supervisor. We were each assigned 5 kids under the age of 4, and all of them had been hurt really badly, and this was both a shocking and an awakening experience for me. The awakening experience was I had not anticipated that I'd feel so comfortable in a space with kids who had been hurt, and that I was actually quite a natural at it. So that was a wonderful realization and reassurance, because I think I would even say that it was in that training that I identified an area that I was very passionate about and that I would love to work in. The difficult part about it was that after about the 3rd week, my supervisor pulled me aside and she emphatically told me that I needed to deal with my anger, that I was feeling, obviously towards the perpetrators, or just the fact that things like this happen to our children, was not only not helpful, if not a bit disrespectful towards my patients, my kids that I was working with, but it also made me short-sighted and blinded as a therapist. And so learning where we may almost instinctively, out of feeling sorry or pity or, you know, angry, compensate for emotions that are actually the compensation is inappropriate. And yeah, we aren't actually helping the other person or the child to carry their emotion. We are kind of just making it louder, or we meeting with them in that space when really we have no right to be angry over what happened with them. I think Byron Katie, she is just she's got beautiful teachings around making peace in your mind, being at peace, being at home in your mind, and and she's got a wonderful clarification where she says there's 3 kinds of business. It's either yours or theirs, or what she calls God's. So life's business, the part that is way beyond what we can or necessarily need to understand and comprehend about our mysterious and magnificent existence, And yeah, so having awareness of when you are going into over-responsibility, when you can feel that you are feeling someone else's feelings, and you're running it through your body, or you are having an emotional response on behalf of someone else. Being able to just bring yourself back in, So put spiritual here, and this, if that word doesn't work for you, because I just kind of anything that, all of it, the space, the synchronicity, life, love, all the beautiful deities or angelic beings, whatever works for you. That's what I call spiritual. And where being spiritually over responsible really resonated in my experience was just because I thought I had to. And so my ability to both, I got lots of training in mental health, but then also a lot of experience in intuitive and working energetically or psychically with children and adults. I felt like because I got information or had information, if someone asked, I had to. And yeah, even when they didn't ask, I felt that if I got information or knew what an answer was or came up with a solution, or if they'd shared something with me, that it was, upon me to go and research and, help them with their growth and get to their answers. And so spiritual over responsibility can often be linked with physical over responsibility, or the over responsibility altogether, however beautifully it culminates in us. Because we can get ourselves so entangled in doing for others, or pleasing or helping, whichever our flavor is, because there's a part of us that believes it's our responsibility to be there. And with physical over responsibility, I suppose, when we're looking with like our kids or even with our family and maybe with friends, it all depends on where you coming from, where we do for them what they can do for themselves, and understanding that that's a disempowering place to come from, and communicating the message that you can but they can't. When it's on that level, obviously there's a very healthy level of giving and taking and helping and stepping in when someone's, in need of more care. We're just looking more at inviting the awareness of where we are irresponsible with our energy, and leaving it out of balance and leaving us feeling a bit untapped, I suppose, or tapped out. So whenever we're working with, when we're in the space of over-responsibility, we're trying to compensate. And once again, we don't need to take a deep dive into what are we trying to compensate, where's the root cause, but we have moved back into the space of, balance and imbalance, or lack, or a power dynamic. That can, in this space, only really create conflict, whether it's inner conflict or outer conflict. It's a place of tension that will not necessarily free you up, but might send you deep into a rabbit hole of trying to resolve and trying to balance or trying to overcome at this level. It's a very lonely place to be when we're working in the opposites, or the tension between feeling that I am separate from my answer, or that any aspect of me is separate from myself. Even when we're in contemplation, what we're doing is we are in our space as witness or as the observer of ourselves, and we're just being aware, and then that sort of integrates into our system and stimulates responses that are aligned with us. And this is just, I've said it here, it's a lonely place to be, it's an isolated place to be, because we're in separation. And so even as we observe or witness, we are not making the observer better than the thought that's going on, that we're aware that we're having a thought, or we're aware that we're having an emotion. Because we're not putting a judgment or a measurement on that thought or that emotion. It's kind of a nice to know. And because of our brilliance, that is sufficient. I was actually listening to a lecture, from like 1976, but it was Jiddu Krishnamurti, and he was speaking about, the root causes of fear, and he made a comment that I thought was so interesting, because he was saying, like, why do we want to, in this space down here where we've got one question and one answer, why is our attempt only to just keep on shaving bits off of fear? If we're working in isolation and wanting to be in like conflict around something, he's like, why do we seek so little? Is there a possibility that we could not want to be, not want to just resolve this one fear, or calm our fears, or get our mind around it? He posed the question of, why don't we ask for complete freedom? Because when you are in a space of contemplation and you're not going into the analytics, what you're really doing is you're aware, okay, I'm having, say, a jealous thought at the moment. I'm feeling envious here. And instead of going into, I don't even need to name it, because sometimes just the word envy or the word fear can trigger us, But I'm noticing that feeling in my stomach and relaxing my body and breathing at the same time. But I'm not telling that feeling to go away. I'm not trying to make that feeling better. So that's what's called like sitting with your fear, or sitting with your anxiety. Because what we're doing in such a clever way is, when our nervous system or our body relaxes like that, the energy and the information that feeling of fear or anger is happening, what it does is it kind of dissipates into the system and kind of generates the feedback. So that might not be exactly scientific, but energetically, that's how I see and have experienced it happening for us. So the first thought that I suppose would come up if someone says to you, why don't you allow like the whole of fear? Why don't you sit with the whole of fear? Why sit with one bit at a time and try to process and, do it that way long? And, the obvious thought is, because that would be frickin' overwhelming. Who would, I don't want to sit with one fear, let alone sit with every single one of mine. But yes, it's overwhelming if we want to run it, all our thoughts about fear or envy. If we want to run it through our mind and get our mind's agreement and our mind's deduction on it, from a time, an emotional and a physical space, that feels like a no-no. Like, that's why I wouldn't want to contemplate or face all my fear at once. However, in a space out of the contrast, beyond the duality, to sit with the totality of fear, to sit with the actual, just a physical feeling, and we don't even have to name it as such, because we kind of know already before we say our words, and to just focus on like relaxing the body and breathing and noticing that physical feeling of fear, and just allowing both of them to be, because they do pass, and they actually pass very efficiently. And as long as we don't take shape and take hold of it and try and wrestle it out ourselves or figure it out ourselves, there's a fantastic organic information processing system going on inside of us, And that is particularly when we are in a space of peace. And the peace is inherent when we're allowing ourselves to be in awareness and to only deal with like the moment that is happening there and then, or here and now, and being connected there. So that's really, I think, enough said around the sense of over-responsibility and around the sense of opening up to not overwhelm or trauma dump ourselves, but to do the opposite, and to allow our systems to work in harmony, and to continue developing the trust from the experience of being able to pause, to not go deeper into the analysis, to relax, and to start kind of guiding our physical body into peace that allows our holistic, multi-beautiful information system, which really is you, to be ignited and explored and expanded. So with that, mamas, I am wishing you a beautiful day or evening, whatever time it is for you. Thank you so much for joining me today. If any of this resonated with you, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe. If there's a particular topic that you would like to contemplate, I'm very open to receiving your ideas. I post every Tuesday and Thursday, and if you would like to have a look or consider an intuitive private session, all the information will be downstairs in the description box. So until next time, lots of love.